Tonight, our stream is about pressure. Pressure inside Confederation, pressure inside federal politics.
And why sometimes Canadians need to remind themselves what still brings us together.
This is Night Talk Canada, episode 69. From Montreal, I'm Gary MacDonald.
And from Tulum, Mexico, I'm Eddie Tkalek. A reminder, we want to hear from you. Make sure to post your comment on YouTube and Facebook.
Our first conversation tonight is an important one, not about whether Alberta should separate, but whether organized growing against the opposition to the separation aspect of it, and who's heading it up and what it is all about.
Indeed.
And joining us tonight is the spokesperson, leader, I guess, of would be the best way, Thomas, to describe it, of the Forever Canadian movement. And we'll get into why you chose that particular name in a moment. Thomas Lukaszuk, and he is out in Edmonton. And Thomas, let's jump right into it, right off the bat. First of all, why did you choose the name Forever Canadian?
Well, Gary and Eddie, first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate that and reaching out to your audience. Forever Canadian, it's quintessential to who I am and who most of Albertans are. We cheer for different sports teams. We come from different ethnocultural backgrounds. But one thing that really unites us is the fact that we are Canadians and we're forever Canadians. This is part of our identity. Hello?
Yes, are you there, Thomas?
I'm here.
Yeah, so I'm sorry about that. Great. Well, thank you very much for that response. You've also served inside government and you've seen constitutional fights up close, Thomas. What worries you most right now about where this conversation is heading in Alberta?
Well, correct. I've been in Alberta government for a number of years, cabinet minister and deputy premier. This is a dangerous conversation. In all parts of Canada, as you travel the country, as all of us have, we are very different in different regions from an economic perspective. British Columbia has its industries, Alberta has its industries, and so does Quebec. But what really makes us a united country is that we're putting all of these resources together and forming one strong economic unit. And even though we're even culturally different as Quebecers and Albertans, but we have that pride in being Canadian, because when you look at Canada from outside in, either from a political or economic perspective, you see one country. Those differences which are really positive are not visible from the outside, and we need to be united and be supporting each other across the entire country, particularly at a time when we live in a geopolitical world that is so fragile. We are realigning our allegiances, both military and economic, across the world. There are players in the world that would like to see democracies crumble and Western countries not collaborate as well as they do. And at this point in time, at this very fragile point in time, last thing we can afford is internal disputes. Yeah, we have differences. We always have, and there are mechanisms to resolve them, but separation is simply not one of those mechanisms.
Right, understood. And just from my mind, before I get into the next question, I'm sure it's probably a question on our viewers' mind. How long have you been with this organization, and how long has Forever this movement of yours? How long has it been together?
Well, it started actually quite spontaneously because it became apparent that the separatists were going to file for a referendum using their question, and they wanted to organize. So I had to beat them to the punch, and I filed my pro-Canadian question with Elections Alberta. And according to Alberta's legislation called the Citizens Initiative Act, I had 90 days to collect 300,000 signatures. So I mobilized this entity called Forever Canadian, and in 90 days we collected nearly 500,000 signatures of proud Canadians wanting to stay in Canada.
Right.
And now this Forever Canadian, it was a petition initiative, is transformed into a campaign, because it looks like we will have a referendum in this province in 2026, and we will be the pro-Canadian campaign moving forward.
Right. Right. Very interesting. And in terms of any pressures from your constituents, is this something that comes up in conversations often in your organization?
Well, I don't have
Pressure
constituents per
separation?
se. I'm no
Yeah.
longer elected
Understood. Wrong word.
for quite a while. But this is really the topic du jour in Alberta. You cannot go grocery shop or go to a gas station without somebody talking about separation, because it is an existential issue in this province. By far, most Canadians cannot even imagine not being Canadian.
Yeah.
And we have families and friends in Quebec and Ontario and British Columbia. We're proud Canadians. Olympics are coming up. We all will be cheering for Team Canada in our
Of course.
favorite sports. And to consider not being Canadian is something that most Albertans find difficult to imagine. More so also because of the fact that a large contingent of separatists not only want to separate, but they want to become the 51st state. They want to join the United States. And looking at the United States today, and at the politics and social turmoil in the United States, last thing most Albertans want is to be part of that.
Right. Right. Gary?
Thanks, Eddie. What is your feeling about some of the members of the Alberta Prosperity Project meeting in the U.S. with some officials talking about a $500 billion line of credit? How is that having any kind of an impact at all? Do you feel, or are people beginning to feel like it's either becoming a reality or could very easily become a reality, or do they feel like maybe they're selling out?
That's a very good question, and the answer to it is rather complex. Unfortunately, there are people in the separatist camp who look up to these leaders, like Mr. Jeff Rath, who flew to Washington, and others, and they feel some sense of comfort knowing that Washington and President Trump is supporting them. Those are the ones who, frankly, would like to become the 51st state. However, vast majority of Albertans are appalled about this, because these individuals are not elected. They have no right to negotiate Alberta's and Canada's natural resources in exchange for a loan, which it's a loan that would be payable by all of Albertans, and these unelected individuals are negotiating a loan which Albertans would have to pay off without any mandate to do so. So the word treason comes up a lot, and even though I'm not sure if that really meets the Criminal Code of Canada definition of treason, but this behavior is definitely unacceptable. So those of us who would not consider separation are even more determined to put an end to this, because that behavior is simply unacceptable.
I'd like to play a clip for you from Pierre Poilievre's speech the other night to the Conservative gathering in Calgary, where he appears to address the unity question. But does he? And I'd like to get your reaction to that when we're finished.
And we need to unite this country like never before, because a house divided cannot stand. Here we go again. Liberals are in power, and just as night follows day, separatist movements are in resurgence back in Quebec and here in Alberta. These movements, which had been dormant or even dead when Prime Minister Harper left office. Now, we can simply attack people who feel this way, or we can ask them why. Why? in Alberta and Quebec? Why, particularly among young people in those provinces, have so many lost hope in Confederation? Well, here's a few hints. For the last 10 years, Ottawa has told our young people that our history is filled with shame and horror, that we are a post-national country with no core identity, and that our youth will never own homes. But other than that, they should feel great about being united in Canada. All the while, the federal government stomps on Alberta's energy sector and Quebec's jurisdiction. Now, our message to those youth and to all of the people in Alberta and Quebec who are losing hope in our country: you will again have a country that respects your autonomy, is proud of your industries, unites us around our common identity and history, a country that will afford you the hopeful future that you have earned.
Did he go far enough in addressing the issue, especially right in Alberta at the time?
Well, let me share a few thoughts following that, hearing that speech again. First of all, it's historically inaccurate, that there were no separatist movements prior, during conservative governments. As a matter of fact, your Quebec referendum followed on the heels of failed Michlik Accord, which was during Prime Minister Maruni's tenure. So no one has monopoly, no political party has monopoly on unity in this country. These separatist movements have been occurring for over 100 years. We had them in Nova Scotia, we had them in Alberta before, irrelevant of who was in Ottawa. Second of all, the last pipeline that was built was actually purchased by federal government during Prime Minister Trudeau's tenure, and now Prime Minister Carney signed on a memorandum of understanding on possibly building another pipeline. So there are a lot of factual inaccuracies and weaponizing separatism, which really is existential. It's threatening our national future. For political gain, for partisan political gain, is very irresponsible. And I'm calling out to all politicians across the country, doesn't matter what political party, that we need to set aside our partisanship when we're dealing with national unity in the face of international threat. However, having said that, I would agree that there is room for improvement. The Forever Canadian campaign is not a status quo campaign. We ourselves acknowledge the fact that there are Albertans who are not happy with status quo, and we need to take those concerns very seriously. When I travel the province and I meet with Albertans, I meet with some separatists, and I think it's important that we hear them out. There is a segment of Canadians, not only Albertans, that simply feel disenfranchised, both economically or politically. A lot of this started during COVID. Many of us with either white collar jobs or portable jobs or with transferable skills managed to work from home during COVID and not have to rely on government grants. We haven't lost houses or mortgages. Well, if you work on oil rigs, you didn't have that opportunity. So, and there are many sort of economic examples of that. So yes, there is frustration. That frustration is real. I think there are solutions to some of those sources of frustration, but it is not a partisan political issue that, when Harper was in government, life was great, and when Trudeau or Carney is in government, life isn't. I can tell you, I was a deputy premier and a cabinet minister in Alberta government, progressive conservative government, during both liberal and conservative federal administrations. And we were just as frustrated with one government as another, because the issues that we have in the country are structural. They're not partisan. They have nothing to do with liberalism or conservatism. They are just structural issues. Albertans are upset about the number of seats that we have in the House of Commons and the number of seats in the Senate being too few. Prime Minister Harper ran on a platform of a triple E Senate, which he didn't accomplish. So this is not pointing fingers at any political party. There are structural issues. The equalization formula may be another one that we need to explain, because there is still a lot of misunderstanding about those issues, and then work hard to resolve them. But separation is not an answer to the problem. As a matter of fact, if Alberta was to separate, Albertans wouldn't know what a problem is until then, because having a landlocked province that's prey to a potential incursion by Americans for our natural resources would cause us more problems than we have right now.
We do have a couple of comments coming in, and what I'd like to do is bring those up. Just bear with me for a second while I adjust the screen. And let's see, there we go. Deborah says, I agree with Thomas. When you are under attack, it's time to set any differences aside and stand united. Canadians, we were infiltrated in the 70s by Republicans, and they've been sowing discord. And then she came back with one more comment to follow up, and that is, not owning a home is no reason to destroy your country.
I would agree, and as a matter of fact, economists of all the political backgrounds and ideological backgrounds all agree on the fact that Alberta, as a standalone country, would jeopardize itself economically, and those who are leading the separatist movements are giving very simplistic answers to very complex questions. There's this assumption, and I imagine some separatists in Quebec feel the same way, that the day after separation, you still will have all the privileges of being Canadian, except you will have the bonus that you will have your own self-determination and be your own separate country. Well, that's not how separation works. This is a divorce. After separation, we will negotiate what benefits you get to keep of being Canadian. In our case, in Alberta, access to the Port of Vancouver, Trans-Canada Highway, railways, embassies, currency, passports, foreign relations, military support, policing, and the list goes on and on. Farmers with inspection agencies for agricultural products. Marketing of Canadian products, which is done by federal government, and the list is a million things. There's this assumption that we will get to retain all that and just not share equalization with the rest of the country. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. And I imagine the federal government will have to play hardball with a separate Alberta because it has to send a clear message to the rest of Canada. This was done by European Union to United Kingdom. When United Kingdom voted during Brexit to separate from continental European Union went out of its way to make it difficult on UK to send a message to other member states. So there's this dream of utopia that you get the benefit of both, but that's not how divorces work.
So from your perspective, what should federal leaders be doing differently when they're hearing this kind of frustration being expressed in Alberta? You're starting to hear a little bit from Saskatchewan and, of course, in Quebec. And really, Quebec is more cultural, whereas it seems Alberta in particular is more centered on the economic side of things.
That is correct. Yes, there are no cultural reasons for Alberta to separate, unlike Quebec. Whereas I fully appreciate the sentiments of separatism in Quebec, I still believe that Quebec being embraced by the rest of Canada and us supporting French language, French culture. Both of my daughters in Alberta finished all of their education exclusively in French. Why? Because it's so important. Part of Canada is speaking French. What makes us now be able to develop better relations with the European Union is the fact that we are bilingual and that we have this French culture interwoven even in Alberta. By the way, on February 11, our Francophone community will be announcing that they are joining Forever Canadian. And that's a strength. That's what makes us stronger. And we have to support each other. But to answer your question more precisely, it is time for political leaders to put their own political aspirations and partisanship aside for the benefit of the country. I don't want to hear another speech like this from Mr. Poilievre or from Danielle Smith in Alberta or others. This is a time when we are actually threatened externally, and we need to get our house in order. And to do so, we need to learn to listen to each other, and we have to set aside our political ambitions. And that is the only way we're going to bring unity. And I can tell you, during the last Quebec referendum, I got engaged personally as well, and many Albertans did, because I cannot imagine Canada without Quebec, and I'm hoping that the rest of Canada cannot imagine Canada without Alberta. We are one country from coast to coast to coast, like siblings. Sometimes we fight and we walk away mad from the dining room table, but you know what? We still go to bed under the same roof, and that's how it has to happen.
You garnered over 400,000 verified signatures. The other side now is working to get their signatures and meet the qualifications, which is 172,000?
177,000.
177,000. And it seems that they're picking up steam. There have been lots of video of long lines where people waiting to get in to sign the petitions. Do you feel that there is a surge of support now starting to come forward for the other side?
You know, it's hard to interpret the visuals. They're using a very different strategy for collecting signatures. I had over 6,000 canvassers, registered canvassers with Elections Alberta, who were omnipresent throughout the province every day and every evening. So wherever you turned in Alberta, there was a table set up somewhere, somebody collecting signatures. Probably because of the fact that it's winter. The separatist movement, they're renting community halls, and you have one chance to sign this petition in one city, so they get those lineups. I'm not sure how they translate into numbers, but let's put it this way. In 90 days, in 3 months, I collected actually nearly 500,000 signatures. The signatures that were not accepted were not because they weren't valid, but there is a technicality. In rural Alberta, farmers have a PO box for address, and that is inappropriate, so those signatures were disqualified. So I garnered nearly 500,000 in 90 days. The premier changed the rules to help the separatists. They have to garner only 177,000 signatures in 120 days. So I imagine they will reach their number. So that is why Forever Canadian is fully prepared for a full-on referendum campaign battle.
All right, your website, I have a graphic of it coming up, I think. Yeah. So your website, you're appealing to all Canadians to join the movement and help fund your movement. Are you getting much feedback from the rest of the country and support from the rest of the country?
Yes, let me start by saying thank you to all of Canada. Yes, Canadians are donating, and what's really heartwarming is that we're getting a lot of small donations, and actually that's what you want in a campaign like this. So Canadians are expressing their love for Alberta and for all of Canada. Much like I said, they just simply can't imagine Canada without Alberta. So yes, Canadians are responding, and I'm encouraging all of you to make a donation if you can, because these campaigns are hellishly expensive. So we need that support from all of Canada. This is not an Alberta issue. This is a Canada issue, and we have to be all in it together, just like we will be helping out in Quebec. For certain, as a matter of fact, help yourself to our branding. I think it will work in Quebec as well. But we are asking Albertans to sign our registration form on our website on forever-canadian.ca, so that we can make sure that on referendum day we will get them out to vote and assist them with voting. So I'm asking all Canadians to log on to forever-canadian.ca. If you're outside of Alberta, please make a donation. If you're in Alberta, obviously make a donation, but most importantly, register yourself as a potential voter.
Eddie?
Yeah, Gary, can you pick up from here, please?
Oh,
I'm
okay.
having a technical issue here.
All right. is the bigger risk here formal separation or more prolonged disengagement, where people really stop believing that Confederation is working for them?
You know, it depends, what group you're focusing on. Vast majority of Albertans um, do believe that Confederation works. Not always perfectly. There are issues, but the recent memorandum of understanding negotiating potentially a pipeline through British Columbia for Alberta oil is an example of what can happen when we actually talk to each other within our country as partners. Um, but yes, there are Albertans who are dissatisfied to the point where they want to separate. But vast majority of Albertans would agree that even though our relationship isn't always perfect, it is still one of the best relationships in the world. It is not by happenstance that Canada always ranks within the first 5 countries as on desirability scales, or where would you like to live, and satisfaction scales. I wish more Albertans traveled. Not only across Canada, because all of us need to do that. We need to get to know our country better and get to know each other and see actually how similar we are, and how different from Americans we are. But we also need to travel abroad, because our reputation outside of Canada is just phenomenal, and so we have a lot to build on. But this bickering inside is simply not helping our unity and our position on international stage. But we need to start listening to each other, and those issues that are identified as valid issues. It is incumbent on our federal government and our provincial governments to bring them to the forefront and start negotiating. And I know, as much as Quebecers are unhappy with certain parts of the arrangements, the interprovincial arrangements that we have, so are Albertans. And my challenge actually is more to the premiers. It's very easy to run to the prime minister and say, "Dad, fix our problem." I don't know if you're parents, but I'm a parent. And when my daughters disagree, I say, "You solve your own problem. You don't want me to solve your problem. You may not like the solution that I come up with, so you figure it out first." And I think that there is a table in Canada that is very much underutilized, and it is underutilized because it suits the premiers, and that is the First Minister Conference. It just ended in Ottawa a few days ago. If Premier Danielle Smith is not happy with transfer payments and feels that Quebecers are living off of the avails of Alberta, bring it up. See whatever other provinces have to say. See if we can amend the transfer formula, the equalization formula. See what we would have to give up in order to get what we want. That's how healthy national conversation should look like. But unfortunately, as we saw right now in Mr. Poilievre's speech, a lot of it is used for partisan, either provincial or federal benefit. And I'm sensing that often there isn't as much desire to solve the problems as there is about complaining about the problems, because that scores you political points. In Alberta, you can win any election just by blaming Ottawa and Quebec for everything. And our Alberta politicians have figured that out.
So, what's the next step in the process?
Well, we are now in the process of pivoting this campaign from collecting signatures to fighting a fully fledged referendum campaign. We will be providing Albertans with actual, factual, evidence-based information on the benefits of being in Canada and what the prospects of being a separate entity would be. And we will be, gathering data on who the supporters are, and then on referendum day, making sure that our supporters come out in the numbers that are required to win this referendum. And we just don't want to win it. I want to win it with a high majority, to send the signal not only to the rest of Canada that we are proud partners in Canada, but to the rest of the world, to show them that there are no cracks that they can externally take advantage of in Canada.
All right. And that pretty much wraps it up from this end, Thomas. We appreciate the time this evening. And again, the website is Forever
Forever.
Canadian.
No, it's forever-canadian.ca. Forever-canadian.ca.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. And I'm sure somewhere along the way between now and at some point over this year, we'll be chatting again for sure.
I'd be happy to. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Tom.
Good night.
Thank you both.
Okay, Eddie, it's time that we still have.
Okay, see you, gentlemen.
Okay,
All
thank you.
Thank you.
There we go.
There we go. You got the right Eddie now.
Yeah, a little technical bump along the way. So that's pressure inside Confederation. Up next, a look at the pressure, how the pressure shows up inside federal politics. But first, there's always a but first. And that will go like this, I think. We get over it? No. Wrong side. And here we go. But first, are you ready?
What first?
Are you experiencing buffering whenever you try to stream your favorite show? Are uploads taking forever? Make the switch to Quebec-based eBox offering unlimited high-speed fiber internet. Now, Eddie and I are customers, and we've been more than satisfied with the service since we signed up. I signed up over a year ago now, and Eddie's been about, 6 months, 7 months, Eddie?
Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah. So, and the prices for their plans are extremely reasonable. You can get more information and an offer using one of the two promo codes in the and clicking on the affiliate link in the description below.
And Gary, let's shift to federal politics. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre secured 87.4% support in his leadership review over the weekend. That's a massive number, but not a simple one. Tonight, we're not asking whether it's good or bad, but we're just simply asking what it unlocks and what it exposes all of us to.
Now, Eddie, Poilievre gave a campaign-style speech to party faithful in Calgary for his leadership review this past weekend. Here are some excerpts from that speech.
Thank you to the great grassroots conservatives who work and unite here today. And welcome to my hometown of Calgary. Great to be home, in the beating heart of the West. A land filled with treasure. A land of oil and honey. The place that taught me my great values. Opportunity as big as the sky. Where a handshake and a word is a man's bond, and where a hard day's work is its own sermon. When newcomers arrive in this country, just as it has always been, we will ensure that they leave differences at the doors. We will deport criminals, end fraud, end abuse and handouts to phony refugees. We will no longer allow foreign conflicts to spill onto our streets. We must unite to end anti-Semitism and the attacks on their places of worship. And stand with our Jewish friends and neighbors who are under attack like never before. We want Jews to feel comfortable and safe. They should be able to wear the Star of David, put up the mezuzah, and wear a kippah everywhere and be proudly Jewish all around. Only Canadians could carve the world's best country out of a big, cold, vast land because we never give up, we never back down, we never run away, we stand united, tonight, together, always, because this country, its people, and promise are worth fighting for, because while some say this is as good as it gets, we know the best is yet to come. Thank you very much.
Very campaign-style speech. I watched the whole thing live Friday night, and there are a couple of things that, at least watching it on TV, first of all, he was a little more relaxed than what you normally see him, and the speech was very conversational in tone in a lot of ways, although he did have his key talking points, and he did hit the key talking points, and he hit, as you heard, a number of hot button issues in the country, for sure. And but what I didn't, you had the people lined up behind him on stage with the placards and waving them and clapping almost at everything. And you had, especially what you could see of the first, 10 maybe rows along the front and of the stage and around the stage. You could see the excitement there. And when you had a pan of the whole area, after the first couple of rows, it was pretty much in darkness. It was hard to really see people. But my own impression when the speech had ended, I was sitting there thinking about it, and my own impression was, I didn't feel the excitement and push, if you will, in the rest of the audience.
Yeah. I guess what you're trying to ask as well, which is something I picked up on too, Gary, is did you feel that he was actually speaking to you, or did you feel that he was talking at you? Because that's always a question that you and I discuss amongst each other whenever we hear any sort of provincial leader, municipal mayor, or even people on a global stage. When they get up to a podium, are they speaking to you, or are they just speaking at you? And when I first saw Mr. Poilievre, I wasn't exactly sure how to take it. And then I rewatched some of the clips the last couple of days. And I just got the sense that, I was really rooting for him. I was pushing for him to change his approach. And we talked many times on our shows that, we'd really like for the Conservatives to actually put a candidate out there that all of Canada can relate to and vote for. And I just didn't feel that for the majority of his speech, he was addressing me or speaking to me as a Canadian citizen. Once in a while, it was there, but he just kind of went back to the, how should you put it, the character set or the mode of the speech that was actually put in front of him. So I just don't feel that he particularly connected with me. I was hoping he would. I just didn't get that feeling, Gary. Is that what you're trying to define?
I know what you're saying. I didn't feel a connection either. Yeah. But as I say, it was a campaign-style speech, and he was campaigning for his job, for sure. That was part of it. But he was also hitting, again, the hot-button issues for a lot of Canadians. And the only time it seemed to be a little bit more relaxed and maybe trying to talk to the crowd was at the beginning when he was talking about his mother being there. But then he goes off, and you knew where he was leading up because he was talking about his mother chasing around town with coupons when he was a kid and trying to get the best deals at each store along the way. And you knew where it was going. It was telegraphed way too soon, way too soon. Mm-hmm. And I think he lost the moment at that point, to me anyway, that he lost the moment for that. So that was one of the impressions I had. Now, yesterday he released a video on social media, and then it came out about he was asking the Prime Minister for an urgent meeting, which apparently he did have. But I went in and I had a look at the video that he released yesterday, and I did pick up a clip. So if you haven't seen it, this will give you an idea of what it was about.
The message from our convention is that Canadians want to turn hope into results. Our people want to return to a time when a trip to the grocery store was carefree and even fun, when they could have a full stomach, full fridge, and full bank account all at the same time. They want crime-free streets again and a self-reliant military and economy. Now, we're a country in crisis. That's why about a week ago I wrote the Prime Minister offering to fast-track policies for an affordable, safe, self-reliant Canada. I've not heard back, so I'm seeking an urgent meeting with the Prime Minister to discuss how Parliament can quickly reverse the food price crisis, the crime crisis, and the dependency crisis Liberals have caused. I'll bring practical solutions and an openness to hear other ideas and work together to fast-track results. The time for judging the Prime Minister by his words is over. It's time for results.
Mm-hmm.
So picking up on the speech, really, elements of the speech, and then putting it out again that, I wrote to the Prime Minister and I haven't heard back, and he slipped that in actually nicely.
Very subtly.
He did it. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was a good little, and that one I'll give him marks for sure. But beyond that, again, he was hitting the hot button topics right now, and he does have some solid points as far
Yes,
as
he does.
especially the dealing with the price of food
Mm-hmm.
at the moment. And we know it's a hot button point because the segment from last week's show that we broke out as a separate video and then put out some reels and shorts, on Facebook. There's one reel coming out of that the last time I looked, it was at 12,000 views. So it's in a lot of shares. So it's that is very, very, it's critical. And we come back around to the grocery assistance program that was announced, and down the road, the increase in the GST. It's again, I saw it referred to today by a commentator, I believe it was, that it was, much the same as Trudeau's GST-free holiday. Remember that started just before Christmas last year and carried into, I think it was the middle of February.
Right.
And how much of an impact did that have? Not a whole lot. And when you break out the actual amount of money that a family's going to get versus the cost of groceries, how much really per week will that help them?
Well, yeah, and it's exactly what we said last week. I mean, something is better than nothing. I think we can all agree with that. Is it going to make a tremendous impact to families that are struggling with, grocery bills and utility bills and rents and whatnot? I'd be hard pressed to say yes. But then, by the same token, and you know what, you and I agree that what Mr. Poilievre just said, he's hit some really critical, serious points. I don't think you and I even disagree with him that these are critical and important points that need to be addressed, and let's have solutions now type of thing, right? I get that 100%. So above and beyond what Prime Minister Carney has put on the table, I think we can agree we would like to see more. Nobody's in disagreement. The one thing I would have liked for Mr. Poilievre to say, which is something he did not say in his last campaign very often, or do very often in his last campaign, and he kind of reiterated the same statements this time, I'd like to see Canadians get A, B, and C. Well, I would have loved to have heard, here is how I propose on potentially doing it. He didn't even give it a little blurb, nothing at all. And he did not spend any time at all during his campaign getting to any minutia or details as to how he's going to approach those problems that, quote unquote, were a direct result of Trudeau's incompetence. And we can agree or disagree on that. It was a very, very difficult time for Trudeau. But yet he had all that time in the opposition in pointing fingers and complaining and saying there has to be solutions. and the Conservative Party doesn't agree with this Mr. Trudeau, but not once did he take the opportunity, and he's great with a camera, Gary. You know, both you and I know he doesn't. It's very difficult to find a camera he didn't like. Not once did he say, on point A, this is how I would fix the problem if I was leader. Gary, I'm telling you, if he actually went down to that level, I believe that his chances on evolving his political career to the next step would benefit him if he actually came out and proposed exactly what he's going to do. And again, he had the chance to do it, and he just didn't take it. And I really don't understand why. I think he's capable of taking the next step. He just seems to be reluctant to do so. Am I looking at this wrong, Gary? Or
Well, we both acknowledge he was trying, after winning the by-election out in Alberta, to show a different Poilievre, and that lasted not that long. And then we were back to the same old style. Now, I will say one thing that surprised me was their new campaign manager, Stephen Outhouse, was all over the national media this weekend doing interviews and talking about how, what the party's doing, how they're going to move forward from here on, and how there are changes that will be taking place. They need to make some changes in what they're doing and how they're explaining it and approaching it. So it's whether he's successful with Poilievre, I don't know. I don't know if Poilievre, I sense Poilievre does not feel comfortable going beyond what we have seen over the last number of years. That's about as personable as you're going to get. And Stephen Harper was a pretty stiff individual in a lot of ways. Apparently people who know him and know him well behind the scenes, and people from all parties who know him and know him well behind the scenes say that he was relaxed. But on the outside, for the most part, he was pretty stiff when dealing with question period, when dealing with reporters, and other things. It wasn't. You could tell he really didn't care for some aspects of that, but it was part of the job. So I'm going to do it, and I'll do it. Do it to the best of my ability.
Right.
Whereas Poilievre is similar in that respect, but with Poilievre, I just there's a total disconnect. You see Harper being. It was 20 years ago. Today, this week, was their last victory, I think it was. Anyway, they're celebrating, and his portrait was unveiled and to hang in the halls of Parliament Hill this week. And there he is the night before having a fireside conversation with, of all people, Jean Chrétien.
Mr. Chrétien, yeah.
Yeah. And the two of them, and the two of them had extremely good words for each other, very, very flattering, and they were sincere. You could tell they were sincere.
Yeah.
And Tom Mulcair, I watched him last night, and he had attended the reception as well, and he had some really very flattering things to say about Harper.
Yeah.
Somehow, unless there's a major turnaround, I don't see that happening with Poilievre.
Yeah, you know what? Quite honestly, I mean, yeah, Harper was very stoic in his approach, and sometimes you get that glitter of his personality. Didn't come out often, but sometimes it did. Look, I'll be quite honest. I mean, I know voting is supposed to be a personal thing and private, but I did vote for him. I literally did vote for him. And why? For the exact reason that I'm not seeing in Pierre Poilievre. When he spoke during the campaign trail, he didn't just poke holes at his adversaries like Mr. Chrétien on occasion. He says, this is what I am going to do to fix the government's problems, and here is how. He went to that layer that I was looking for, and you know what? He did reach me. And I did vote for him, and I very happily voted for him. Okay. And like I said, I'm one of those that's going to vote for the best person to run the country during their tenure. And I'm always hoping that the Conservative Party, along with me and millions of other Canadians, could potentially put a candidate on there. And I was hoping it was Mr. Poilievre, put a candidate out there that'll, keep Carney in check, keep the government in line, ask the relevant questions, and do what needs to be done to improve the country. It's just me. I know our viewers can say, Eddie, you don't know what you're talking about, but this is just my feeling that he just hasn't reached me. And if he hasn't reached a common sense fellow like myself that will go both sides of the meter, how many other millions of Canadians out there is he not reaching that potentially would have changed their vote to the Conservatives? So it goes back to what we said the last two episodes, Gary. Very, very important leadership review that just went through. Pierre Poilievre has a resounding result that benefited him. The question is, did the Conservatives make the right choice to lead the party into the next federal election after they lost the last, 4 or 5? Have they got the right person in place? I'm not getting that feeling. Like right now, I wouldn't say, yeah, they did a good thing here. But I guess time will tell. Will Pierre Poilievre change, Gary? I don't know. It's hard to see it, but I'm rooting for him. I really hope he does, just for the sake of bettering our government. Like right now, if there was an election called within the next 6 months, I really don't think there's any chance of him actually sitting in the prime minister's chair anytime soon, unless he turns things around again, which is unfortunate. I mean, I'm looking at it as an unfortunate thing that he really hasn't stepped up to the plate and really described what he and his party are going to do to make my life better, make your life better, and make the lives better of the individuals that he says are struggling under Liberal leadership for now and in the past. How he's going to make their lives better. You don't hear much about that.
Well, the other side of it is the Liberals have managed to open up about on an average 5 to 6 point lead over the Conservatives in the last couple of polls. And, a lot of people, and I agree, and that's kind of, I think, the result of Carney's speech in Davos 2 weeks ago. I think that's helped to put some distance between the Liberals and the Conservatives. And also, again, the preferred Prime Minister is definitely Carney by a wide margin now, a very wide margin. Now, Poilievre may pick up a few points or more in the next round of polling after his speech on Friday night. But here's the thing. 87.4% of the people attending, the delegates in Calgary, voted in favor of Poilievre. Now, There's going to be those on the outside who say, well, they basically made sure that they got the delegates stacked. They got the right delegates attending the convention. I've already heard questions about, why would you schedule a convention like that at the end of January in Calgary? Well, it looked like they had maybe a Chinook, because I saw a couple of interviews being done outside, and they weren't all bundled up like we were back here in the East, for sure. Yeah. But the other side of it is there are those who are, again, arguing, and it doesn't matter if it's a Conservative leadership review or a Liberal leadership review or leadership race. It comes down to there are party members who did not have a say, did not have a vote, because the voting was confined to the convention floor. But that's not any different than what has happened in the past on both sides from time to time. So I understand what they're saying, but I don't necessarily sing from the same page in their hymn book on that. However, if you remember a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, I said, give me a reason to vote Conservative.
I remember.
I was sitting there Friday night, had my bowl of chips and my beer, watching the speech, and wondering if I would have a reason to vote Conservative when it was over.
Drum roll.
And the
And
answer
what did we end
is
up saying?
no.
No.
He's working on it. They've got some new people around him working on it, but I just there's a total disconnect for me, and certainly I did not see the reason to vote Conservative. So that ends my discussion on that one. That's just the way it is, and I know I'm going to get some hate, and that's all well and good. I have my opinion. I have a right to express my opinion, and I have expressed my opinion. And somewhere along the way, someday, the Conservatives may get a leader. Now, their new philosophy is, let's work together, and they did get an all-party agreement in the House to speed through a couple of the bills very quickly. And you know what? That should not be a major story coming out of Ottawa. That's what they're supposed to be freaking doing.
Right.
Is working. Yes, challenge the law to a degree, but stop with the political theatrics and stalling and everything, and get what you can and get the bills passed, get them out the door, get the laws in place or the programs in place for the people who are paying your salary. And it's good to see that, but it shouldn't have been such a big deal. Anyhow, that's a whole other conversation. So as I say, I don't have a reason to vote Conservative at the moment. And the way it's going, unless there's, I don't know, unless I win the lottery and all of a sudden there's a major change at the top of the
Right.
Conservative Party, I won't have a reason until at some point down the road when Poilievre either steps down, retires, and they need a new, they go out looking for a new leader, and we'll
Right.
see who that is. But I'll tell you, the other thing is, I'm not totally enamored with Carney of late either.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have he's got one thing that the Liberals are doing once again, and where's the party membership coming, and what say does the party membership have when there are two candidates already appointed for either the by-elections or the federal election we're going to have sometime in May.
Mm-hmm.
Appointed. No call for nominations, no contest, and may the best person win. No. Head office says this is the person for here, and this is the person for this riding. And of course, one of the ridings they snagged the deputy leader of the provincial NDP in Ontario.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And when I see that, I'm thinking, what's this all about? Has she suddenly had an awakening, or what? Or is it all about what's in it for me and what can I get? Is she focused on one? she has an agenda of 1 or 2 items?
Right.
I don't know. I don't really know her. But there's, to me, I just, if you're going to have a political party and you want supporters, each of the riding associations, and yes, ultimately the leader has to say, well, I don't think this candidate quite meets what we're looking for or whatever. But you go through the process. We're in a democracy. It's a democratic process. You go through the process, and instead of appointing star candidates, or they think they're star candidates, let the local people choose who they want to represent them at the party level and to their, they're hoping at the parliamentary level.
Right.
So I'm not buying into Carney's, there are a few things that are starting to bubble with me, and I think he has to maybe take a deep breath, have a look around, and start paying attention to a few things, and a few things here at home.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before that he's got a lot on his plate, and I think both you and I were both critical of him a few shows ago. That he's got people that are working for him, and there are critical issues in this country that need immediate attention, and in fact, a lot of his attention. Although he's got a lot of things on his plate. Well, you know what? That's why you were elected Prime Minister of Canada, to be able to deal with all those pressures and manage your resources and your focuses on what the priorities are for the country. Perhaps you can't handle them all at the same time, but you can't just ignore a few of them and just kind of put them on the side until somebody starts screaming. So I think both you and I were somewhat critical of him being able to address the things that are really important to Canada as well right now. I know, take aside from all the threats to our sovereignty and so on and so forth, which is a tremendous priority, but you can't forget about, hey, let's take a look at what the issues are here back home that may not necessarily have anything to do with international influence. So I'd like to see a little bit more of that, and I think you're right, Gary. Even when it comes down to elections before any next federal election and getting the nominations going, I think that also speaks to something that we were also concerned about, and it was a conversation we had months ago. When we have MPs crossing the floor, right? Well, what does that do in terms of the constituents in that riding and voters where they actually may not have necessarily been voting for the leader of that area or the candidate, the MP of that area, but they were actually voting for the fact that he was representing a particular philosophy through the political party. What? Exactly. All of a sudden, your vote doesn't count? This kind of, why are we... So first of all, that there in terms of the by-elections, it doesn't really follow a fair process, in my opinion. Okay, that's just my thought process. But then, on the other hand, you're speaking about going through the process and allow the citizens to elect who's going to be running in that particular riding moving forward is the right way to go. So maybe there's some balance in between, Gary. So, I mean, this is not something I think one political party can fix. I think this has got to be a bipartisan effort by all political parties to actually sit down and take a look at election laws in this country to make sure that everybody's fairly represented during the tenure of one's vote over a course of 4 years. You can't just drop your bag and say, "Hey, I'm going to be a liberal tomorrow." And last night I had a beer with the leader of the Progressive Conservative Party, and then change parties the next day. I would not have been very happy with it. You clearly expressed that you were not happy. You wouldn't have been happy, Camper, had you voted for one party, then it got moved over to the other side. So it's a long conversation. I think there's just another element that has to be addressed by both parties, and this would be great if we can get the Conservatives and Liberals to put a plan in place that later on down the line during the next mandate that there are rules put into place that make it more difficult to cross the floor without consequences. So that's what's happening right now. across the floor, zero consequences. So, well, we'll see how that pans out. It's just one of many problems that's one of many problems this country has, and doesn't necessarily mean we are not a country with a lot of wonderful things working for us at the same time. But who doesn't have problems, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we have a couple of comments to catch up on too. Let's see. Cheryl says this goes back to our conversation earlier this evening. You can't blame Alberta. It's been 11 years of Nazi liberals screwing Alberta. And then Maxstar 144, what a liar. Have constitutional lawyer Keith Wilson, King's Counsel, on your show, or you will be deceived. Ask little Tommy why he chickened out of a debate with him. He was referring to Thomas, I guess. Yeah. Can we just have a civil conversation, folks? Really? And then Max Star comes back. BC has 4 days of gas and jet fuel if we turn off the taps. You know, that kind of conversation is not going to help the situation one way or the other. You're sounding more and more like Trump and company.
Yeah.
And we all know how that ends. And, you know, like, come on. So let's see. He claims he lied to seniors in long-term care facilities to get their signatures. It's impossible to become a U.S. state. The Democrats would demand D.C. and Puerto Rico 20% fraud rate on his signatures. Well, you know what? 20% fraud. Is that what Elections Alberta said? Did they call it fraud? I don't remember hearing anything like that in any of the reports I saw. So, like, let's stop throwing some of these words around rather loosely. They still have over 400,000 verified signatures. I don't know how many have been collected by your side yet, or up to this point, and you have until May 2nd, which is fair. That's fine. And then let's see, once Elections Alberta verifies the signatures, how many verified signatures you get out of whatever it is you have collected. Is it fraud? No. What it is somebody making a mistake along the way, filling out a form or not checking off whatever. I don't know what's on the forms, nor do I really care at this stage. But just to throw words out, fraud, that's ridiculous. And you know what? I appreciate you chiming in, but if you can't be a little more civil, then I'll just hit ban from the broadcast. It'll be as simple as that.
Well said, Gary.
And, you know, like the same with the name. Like, I'm not even putting that comment up. So let's see. And the last one is, the tax credit cannot work for food. Big grocery will raise their prices, so any break we get goes into their coffers. So now we're caught up on all of the comments. And hopefully people understand that we encourage conversation and debate, but be reasonable and civil in doing so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, very simply put from my side, Gary, I think you'll agree we're not a social media platform. We can just go online, comment, and not be polite and not use common sense and civility on our show, where on Facebook and whatever else that you choose to be your platform of choice, you basically vent and say anything you like. So that's something we'd not like to see on this show, and you're 100% right, Gary.
Alrighty. Okay, so let's move along and keeping on here. because after two heavy conversations, we'll end tonight somewhere where Canadians still meet each other. Meantime, though, Ecamm Live is the leading live streaming and video production studio software built for Mac. You can stream, record, and present. Now, I use Ecamm Live for Night Talk Canada. You can get more information and sign up for a 14-day free trial, no credit card required, by clicking the affiliate link in the description below.
Absolutely. And Gary, we spend a lot of time tonight talking about pressure inside politics and inside the country. So let's end somewhere Canadians still come together. Yep, the Winter Olympics are fast approaching, and I have some thoughts on what to watch from our Canadian athletes, Gary. You know what? I can't remember the last time that Canadians did not rally around the Olympic Games. Opening ceremonies are always an absolute blast to watch. You get to see a country put on the best show they possibly can because you have billions of people watching, and these Olympics are no different, Gary. Yes, indeed. February 4th to the 22nd, the 25th Olympiad, the Winter Olympic Games, will be held in Milan Cortina. They're actually starting on the 4th, which is tomorrow, but the opening ceremonies are actually being held on the 6th of February. There's going to be quite the buzz. There's anywhere between 90 and 95 nations with approximately 2,900 athletes being represented. Why 90 to 95 and approximately 2,900 athletes, Gary? Is, believe it or not, they still haven't completed the entire list of athletes because some are still in qualification rounds, and sometimes some events happen towards the latter end of Olympic week. So it has been 100% confirmed as to who's going to be there. Are still some competitions going around in the elite, in some of the elite sports around the world. And you know what? It's an opportunity for Italy to showcase its country and its capabilities into promotion of sports and peace to a large degree. This is Italy's third Winter Games. The first was held in Cortina d'Ampezzo in 1956, and the last Winter Olympics were held, I believe, in Turin in 2006. And this, of course, is to complement the great job they did way before my time, no, a couple of years before my time, actually, the Summer Olympics of Rome of 1960. So here we are. Canada is absolutely ready to get into the mix of these next games. The last games, of course, were held in Beijing, China in 2022. And during those Olympics, again, it's not a believe it or not situation, but Norway actually walked away with the most medals and also the most golds. And Canada was not too far back. And just prior to that, Canada had a lot of achievement in terms of setting records for Olympics, which I'll get into in a few seconds here. So this particular Olympics, Gary, is basically 116 medal events through 16 individual sports under 18 distinct disciplines. I really wasn't sure how many events or how many disciplines there are in winter sports, but I was quite surprised by how many there are. So, just by listing the 8 disciplines, you can actually break them down to a certain degree. We've got the skiing, of course, the ice skating, ice hockey, of course, curling, biathlon, bobsleigh, luge, ski, and there's a new one this year. It's a mountaineering, a sport in mountaineering during the Winter Olympics, which is something I'm looking forward to seeing. It's actually called ski mountaineering. Correction. So here we are, Canada. Yep, there have been 25 Olympic Games, and Canada is actually is going to be participating in their 25th Olympic game. 25th coming up in Italy. And, I remember how proud we were during the 1988 Olympics in Calgary and how proud we were with the 2010 Games in Vancouver and some of the greatest team achievements. At the 2020 Games, Canada actually achieved quite considerably on a domestic scale as Canadians and on a global scale. So this was a first for Canada at the Vancouver Olympic Games, leading in the gold medal counts and actually medal wins in the games, gold medal wins. So they also set a new record for the most golds in Olympic game history at 14. So they won 14 gold medals in Vancouver 2010. But alas, that record and that distinction only lasted 8 years, and that record fell to Norway, who during the 2018 Pyeongchang Korea Games and Beijing in 2022, Norway actually broke the record with 16 gold medals. So, you know what? I think there is a lot of high expectations this Winter Olympics for Canada to excel, and not just the traditional sports that we're really good at, aside from hockey, but we do very well in a lot of the other sports. And you know what? We have a lot of returning medalists coming back. We have Michael Kingsbury, the king himself of freestyle skiing and moguls. He's going to be there again. I think this is something like his fourth Olympics to that event. Participating in moguls, he's won gold, he's won silver, and on top of all those world championships, I think there was like 7 or 8 world championships he's won. So he's always a favorite, and also Justin Dufour-Lapointe. He's also going to be returning as medals from the previous Olympics. Snowboarding. There's another sport that's really great to watch. We have Max Parot, Laurie Blouin, and Elliot Grondin, who also won gold. Max won gold in 2022, so we have a lot of medalists showing up again at the Olympics this year. They made the team. Speed skating, the ladies speed skating and team pursuit. Evgenie Blondin, Isabelle Wiedemann, and Valerie Matelet, they won the gold medal for team pursuit in the last Winter Olympics in Beijing. So they are returning, and they're actually heavy favorites to pull a gold again. And then we've got our figure skaters coming back in Piper Gillies and Paul Poirievre won silver in the last figure skating competition during the Olympics. So Gary, you know what? It's actually pretty exciting. And then you look at some of the other traditional sports where we have newcomers coming into their first Olympic Games and actually surprising everyone. Our short track speed skaters, they are always in a position for a medal, whether it be bronze, silver, or gold. And that's I don't know if you've seen short track speed skating, Gary, but that's a rough and tumble, tough, fast sport to actually compete in. So I have every confidence that we're going to pull a few gold medals in from that particular event. So a lot of sports coming up that are going to be quite exciting. Bobsleigh. I don't know about you, Gary, but do you enjoy watching bobsleigh and luge in the Olympics?
A bit, not a whole lot. Like I have a very short attention span when it comes to some of these things.
Oh, do you? Do you?
Yeah.
Well, tell you what, Gary, I would buy you the richest bottle of scotch on the planet if I can see you going face first down one of those luge courses. You probably
I
have
won't
to drink
even make it to the course before I go
right?
face down.
Yeah, you know what? The bravery that goes into some of these athletes in doing what they actually do, and they're flying down in like something like 100 kilometers an hour, face first on a sheet of ice. You know what? You have to have nerves of steel for that, and you know what? You have the time between gold, silver, and bronze could be 100th of a second. So I mean, if you even sneeze going down the track, your Olympic medal hopes go down the drain. So it's a really exciting sport to watch. And you know what, Gary? I mean, I'm not going to get into the hockey yet, but after the last year that we've had globally, I think that the world can breathe just a little better, a little easier over the next 2 to 3 weeks during the Winter Olympics, and take in some of the bravery and take in some of the breathtaking views of Italy, take in some of the camaraderie between people of all walks of life and from all parts of the world, actually sharing a city together and celebrating life. I personally see the Olympics as a celebration of life, brought together by the youngsters of the world, which I think was the original purpose of Pierre de Coubertin when he initially launched the Olympic movement is bring the youth together of the world and to celebrate life. That's what it's supposed to be about. And I'm really hoping that in terms of how Italy is actually putting this together, broadcasters around the world, our CBC sports analysts actually don't lose sight of the fact that this is not just elite athletes participating in a sport, that are actually doing much more than that and just bringing the world together in a peaceful forum to actually enjoy the pursuit of sports. And I'm actually really looking forward to catching as much of the Olympics as I possibly could just for that. And I'm sure I'll be visiting you while I'm back in Montreal for a few days, and we can have an opportunity to watch some of these sports, Gary. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And I would encourage our viewers to seek out. It doesn't matter what sport. Just go on there, find a channel that's broadcasting the Olympics. Sit down and watch it, and appreciate what these individuals do in terms of preparation for the sport, the training, and actually executing what they've practiced for the last 4 years to get them to this particular level. So there's going to be drama, there's going to be heartbreak, there's going to be surprise gold medal winners, and there's going to be what do we call it? The agony of defeat, which we'll see quite often as well.
Right.
Another sport I love watching,
something.
Gary, ski jumping.
Yeah. I just saw something that Canada's Mark McMorris was taken off the hill last night or early this morning. Last night, I guess, stretchered off a hill after a fall in pre-Olympic snowboard training. Now, there's no word on his condition that I could find in the article. It's just a very brief article, I guess. The Olympic organization put the word out, but they didn't have the Canadian Olympic Committee released a statement confirming the incident, but crash during big air training.
Yeah, it was a significant
staff
spill.
are attending to him will provide more information as it becomes available.
Yeah, and that, you know what, Gary, that's just the risk these elite athletes take. They
Exactly.
completely push themselves to the limit, and again, pushing yourself to the limit. These individuals that get up on the 90-meter ski jump and just soar right off and into the yonder. That has to take a specific, particular kind of mentality to jump off a ski ramp like that and just fly through. That's an amazing sight to see.
Yeah, for sure.
And let's go for what all our Canadians are also very proud of is our hockey programs. And last but not least, we talked a little bit about the Olympic venues being ready for hosting the ice hockey games, both the women's and men's tournaments. Yep. We mentioned that the ice surface that's at the Olympic venues is not going to be Olympic size, and it's not even going to be NHL regulation. It's actually going to be 3.5 to 4 feet shorter and maybe a foot and a half wider. So it's still within International Ice Hockey Federation rules. They made the surface a little smaller, which is something that the NHL was willing to turn on an eye to, not at the expense of player safety. These are elite athletes who make a lot of money playing professional. And by the way, this is the first time that professional hockey is actually NHL players being included in the Olympics since Sochi, since the Russian Olympics. And the NHL want to make sure their assets, their money makers don't hurt themselves playing on inferior ice. So they've already had a few semi-professional games on that ice to check it out, to make sure that it actually works. There were a couple of issues with it. They modified the rink surface, changed the temperature of the rink, just to make sure that it's actually going to live up to the standards of what the NHL is seeking. And last time I think we mentioned that the ice maker, they brought in world famous ice maker who's Canadian, by the way, and forgive me, I don't recall his name, but yeah, he's been pretty much living there the last 2.5 months, making sure that the ice meets the stringent requirements of the National Hockey League. And I'm pleased to announce it looks like our professional athletes will be heading over to the Olympic Games in Italy. So that's a great thing to see. So The venue is not 100% complete in terms of stands and some of the venues that are made available for spectators, but the surface will be ready for the Olympics. So that's just great to see. So here we are, Gary. We got professionals actually on the ice rink, and you know what? Of course, all the drama is on the men's side, but I'll start with the ladies. The ladies hockey first. They first started playing. They first started participating in the Winter Olympics in 1998, and our hopes are very high for the gals to bring back a gold medal. So in 1998, the inaugural one, the United States actually won that first medal. And this is going to be Olympic tournament number 8. And since that time, Canada has brought back 5 gold medals, and the United States has brought back 2 gold medals. And those are pretty much the only 2 teams that actually brought home gold. And the whole purpose of women's hockey is to promote it globally, so every country can actually catch up, develop their players. Countries invest money in some of the women's hockey programs around the world so they can actually become competitive. And a lot of Canadian women are turning semi-professional or playing professional in European countries to actually boost the sport. And that's really great to see for the sport. So I like to see somebody else in the gold medal game this year besides Canada and the United States. Maybe Sweden. They actually made it to the gold medal round in 2006 in Turin, which Canada won. But you know what? It's going to be great. The rivalry in sports is no fiercer than women's hockey between Canada and the United States. They have tournaments throughout the entire year. Both countries, they go back and forth in terms of world championship wins. So best of luck to the ladies over in the Canadian Olympic team, the women Canadians Olympic team in Italy this year. Best of luck to them, and I'm betting they're going to bring home a gold medal this year, Gary.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's good. And let's get on to the men. So there have been 24 hockey tournaments in the Olympics since day one. The first one was in Chamonix, France, France, and that was won by the Canadians, the first gold medal in hockey. That was played way back then. And the last time, as I mentioned, we had pro athletes was in 2014 in the Sochi Olympics, the Russian Olympics, and guys won gold medals there as well. To give you an idea, at the beginning of the Olympics, when they first came out, how dominant men were. In total, Canada has won 9 gold medals for hockey in the Olympics, followed by the old Soviet Union. Remember those bad boys? Yeah, they won 7. They won 7. And some of the other teams that you'd be very surprised won medals. Great Britain won one in the 50s.
Really?
Great Britain won 1 Olympic gold medal. Now, I did a little research on that, and 70% of the team that represented Great Britain were actually Canadians that were in the military serving over in the UK. But it was still defined as a Great Britain gold medal. Sweden has won 2. The Czech Republic has won 1, and of course the United States has won 2. And the last brilliant one, if you remember, in Lake Placid, Gary, Miracle on Ice. You know what? At that time, I was never prouder to be an American than when they actually beat the Soviet Union and went on to win the gold medal in the next round. So I actually felt very proud as a proud American. It was just the funniest thing, and that just goes to the spirit of the Olympics. It doesn't matter what your country you're from, as long as you can embrace what other countries, what other athletes around the world are capable of doing at very critical moments in time. So right now, Gary, I have a feeling we're going to still have a Canada-USA gold medal final. And if you remember from the Four Nations tournament last year, about this time, it got pretty nasty and nerdy when you had 3 fights in a matter of the first 2 or 3 minutes of the game between the Canadian and US team. I think smarter heads will prevail this time because it's under International Ice Hockey Federation rules where fighting is not permitted. And because of the fact they're playing on a global stage, they're going to focus on playing some tough, gritty, but very exciting hockey leaving politics outside the rink, which I'm very confident is going to happen. So you know what? Let's just go for it, Gary. Canada for the gold medal, huh?
Right. And there will be a lot of national pride riding on that one for sure.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So I encourage everyone to tune into their televisions. It's going to be a fantastic opening ceremony come Saturday, and just start enjoying the spectacle of sport during a very turbulent time in the world.
Alrighty, Eddie, that's great stuff. Like, wow. Well done report. Covered everything. Wow. So, guess what? That's going to put a wrap on episode 69. Now, I just want to say one thing. Apologize for the shaky start this evening. There are a couple of new things on the back end here that I've been working with today and yesterday. And for the most part, it went relatively smoothly, a lot smoother than what I thought it was going to. And it will make things a lot smoother going forward for sure. We did have one little glitch, and it's our internal communication back and forth. And of course, we're at the mercy of the net, and if something gets thrown in, a wrench gets thrown in the midst of it, then things do get a little shagged up, if you will. Anyway, we got over it, and a great conversation this evening, or great conversations all the way around. But to get another side of the Alberta separation battle was well worth it. And we will be going back, and as it gets closer to the deadline for those who are in support of a referendum on separation to submit their signatures, we will be talking to hopefully a representative of their organization and get some more details from them as well. We're also following anything that's happening in Saskatchewan. And of course, we will now begin to pay attention to what will be happening here in Quebec, because we're counting down now to a fall election, early October. And in between, we're going to have another federal election, probably before the long weekend in May, mid-May, so that we'll be on top of that as well. So all sorts of little things, and by then everything will be smooth and working like clockwork. I'll even learn how to push the buttons in the right order, and it'll muscle memory will settle in. It'll be great. So
Gary, I'll tell you what, better you pushing the buttons than me. You're doing a great job.
Well, it went smoother tonight, and as I say, once the muscle memory is fully worked up, then that part of it will go smoother, and the other thing with the prompter, we just have to get that straightened out. But we're working on that as well. So anyhow, tonight's show covered a lot of ground: pressure inside Confederation, power inside federal politics, and moments that still bring Canada together. Thank you to Thomas Lukaszuk, a forever Canadian, and to you for your comments tonight.
And remember to like, share, and subscribe YouTube or follow on Facebook. You can also find us on YouTube Shorts, Facebook Reels, Instagram, and yes, TikTok. I'm Eddie Tekalik. Good night, everyone.
Night Talk Canada returns in 7 days. I'm Gary MacDonald. Good night.
Bye.